What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. I'm back with another edition of Completing the Crew. I feel like it's been way too long since I've done these. I keep waiting on Hasbro's Marvel Legends team to knock out more of these teams that they've started. And it's a little frustrating because they'll get going, they'll get me excited, like, all right, we're about to knock out this team and get it completed. And then they go, let's start another four teams that we're never going to complete either. Now, one of the groups that I think is really key, really important, that I want to see completed in my Marvel Legends display when Hasbro's run is done are the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts are such a great team. They were created back in January '97 by writer extraordinaire Kurt Busiek, one of my all-time favorite writers, and Mark Bagley, who had such a great run on the Amazing Spider-Man, Thunderbolts, such a great creator during the 90s and so influential with so many books that he drew, the characters he designed, such a great creator in terms of all the visual stuff you need in comic books, which is just as key as having a great writer. The Thunderbolts came at a perfect time in Marvel Comics history because they arrived before the internet, before everyone had a YouTube channel, before everyone got all these sources, before there were chats, before people would blurt out all these spoilers on Twitter. And I'm not calling it X, I refuse to. But before all that stuff that would have ruined the greatest reveal in comic book history, I'm still standing by that. I think it's one of the best reveal ever. I mean, I guess you could say Tara being a traitor and actually being with Deathstroke is pretty cool, but I think this one tops it. It tops everything because it's just so well executed. Back in '96, the X-Men, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Hulk, Spider-Man battled Onslaught. And this was a major, major battle in the MCU, something that, if done right, would make for great art in a movie, maybe like a whole phase. It could be the Onslaught phase. But this led to the Avengers and the Fantastic Four disappearing. In reality, they were in the Heroes Reborn universe trying to figure out what was going on and eventually returning. But in this absence, in this void, the Thunderbolts came through, and it was a perfect time for them because this was unlike any other period in Marvel universe history where the main heroes were gone and we had this team who was ready, willing, and able to stand in the gap, be counted, and be the heroes that the Marvel Universe needed. We had the leader, Citizen V, and he looks really cool with his cutlass, his cowl, his whole cape with the American flag. He's a true patriot. We've got Techno, who is so geared up with everything, create all this fun designs, this mechanical deal with his harness. He's got everything under control. We've got Songbird, who with her carapace can create so much stuff, basically like Green Lantern. We've got Meteorite, who has energy projection. She's super durable, super strong, can fly, a lot like Wonder Woman. Then we've got Atlas, the big giant powerhouse who can throw down with anybody. And he can grow pretty much as tall as Giant Man, 25 feet. He's doing the thing. And then we've got Mach 1 with his suit of armor, can fly around at super high speeds. He's got energy projection as well. You can do all kinds of stuff. So this team really was ready to do the thing. They started off, they debuted battling the Incredible Hulk, one of the few survivors from this, along with those dirty mutants, the X-Men, and Spider-Man. So all those heroes were kind of looked at even worse than they were before because, like, why did the Avengers and Fantastic Four have to leave and you're still here? So the Thunderbolts took on the Incredible Hulk, survived another fight with him, and made it out, but they gained a lot of respect in the process. But at the end of their very first issue, that's when the big bombshell, the big reveal takes place. And we learn that the Thunderbolts are not at all heroes. They are not. They're in actuality the masters of evil. And this is Citizen V, aka Baron Zemo's ultimate plan to get revenge. The Zemo families had a long-standing beef with the Avengers, with Captain America. This is the ideal way to pay them back. They're going to masquerade as heroes in order to get all the secrets from S.H.I.E.L.D., the Avengers, and the Fantastic Four. So joining him are members of his old iteration of the Masters of Evil. So we've got Fixer, Beetle, Screaming Mimi, Goliath, and Moonstone. And they're all set to continue this masquerade until they accomplish their dreams, their hopes of being dominant Masters of Evil and Masters of the World. But crazy, wacky thing happens. These former villains, these punching bags to all these heroic heroes in the Marvel Universe start to realize they kind of like being heroes, helping other people, and not being chased down by the police at every turn. So then it starts this whole thing. Well, who wants to be a hero? Who will be a hero? Who's really a villain in their core? And ultimately, Baron Zemo and Techno leave the Thunderbolts because they revolt and they're going, hey, we want to be heroes. We want to do the right thing. And it leads to this big deal. So we've got 3 members right here of the Thunderbolts. And I think Hasbro's done a great job for the most part with these characters. Songbird's missing her Thunderbolts logo. I'm really upset about that, but I really appreciate the fact that they added her wings, her sonic wings. That's really cool. That's something they don't normally do. So I was really happy about that. Mach 1 reuses a Beetle figure, which I think is so appropriate. That makes a lot of sense. Really well done figure. He does have the Thunderbolts logo on his armor. Citizen V is just about perfect. Only problem is he's missing that purple, and that's so key because it's teasing, foreshadowing that, hey, like so many Marvel villains, Citizen V is actually a villain. Purple is one of those colors that kind of raises your eyebrows visually. Like, hey, this guy's in purple, like Magneto, like Green Goblin, like Onslaught. I think there might be something more to him. And Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley create these great designs where it's all these subtle cues where it's like, I see what's going on here. So we've got this team. Let's break down the ones who are still left that we still need to see done with this team. And first up, I've got to go with Moonstone, aka Meteorite. Great costume. I love how angular this is because it's also you think of the sharp points, you think of the jagged edges, jagged little pill, shout out Atlantis. There's some foreshadowing here with this design that she's not warm and cuddly. Don't come up, little kids, and take a picture with your hero Meteorite. She's a bad guy. And love how these sharp edges look. The design is just really complex and really interesting. You see these lines, these paneling. That's going to require a little bit of work. And Hasbro doesn't necessarily love a little bit of extra work, but I think in this case it would be so rewarding. She's got the Thunderbolts logo right here on her forearm armor. And you can see how asymmetrical this thing looks, where it's just all these different segments, all these portions. I know Hasbro really won't be up for this. They won't want to take this challenge, but I think if they did, this could be one of their standout figures, and it just would look so cool. And, you see from Songbird here, you see from Mach 1 how well those figures look, minus the missing logo on Songbird's belt, how they match up. So I think we could get a Meteorite, Techno, Atlas like that, we would be in business. And I think that's kind of what I want to see Hasbro do with these figures. Don't be afraid. Don't go, oh, we can't do that. No, you absolutely can. Let's make it happen. But because I know Hasbro's looking for ways to save a buck so we can get more figures down the road, I get it. It's part of the thing. There's another option for Meteorite with her costume. This is her second attire. It's a little bit toned down, a lot less complications, a lot less complexities to the design. Basically, it's the typical female skin tight spandex outfit. The only difference is her mask is still intact, but they could do this and it wouldn't be much of a problem. And if I got to choose between not getting Meteorite at all or getting this version instead of the first one, I'll take the second one. It works for me. And she was in this costume that looked a little bit longer than that first iteration. So that's okay. We'll make it work. Next up is Atlas. And I am quite confused, not quite sure. I'm not putting on my action figure designer cap in terms of how they execute Atlas. Clearly, he's tall. And I don't think he needs to be a HasLab size figure. Maybe we cap him out at 16 inches because we don't need every giant character to be a HasLab offering. I think we can get him in a regular form and call it a day. He's got great design elements as well. I love these gauntlets. He's got some big armored boots as well. I love his belt. We got the logo there. Excuse me. And I think with his height, if we don't make him super HasLab-y size, they can do all these gauntlets and the elements here properly as opposed to shortcutting them and going, this is the best we can do. And I really love the color scheme. It's sort of heroic. It's just a little bit more maroon as opposed to your normal bright red. But I think that really looks cool for him. And he shows up really, really. So you've got these really good characters, these really great designs. Got him. He's ready to do his thing. And I really feel like this is the importance of them mixing up those sizes of giants so we can get a character like him in there without too many hassles, too much problems. So next up, I've already mentioned him. You've seen him in most of these images already. Techno. Techno has what I think is a pretty easy design for him. His big complication is the big shoulder pads with all the mechanical elements to it. And I think they could work around. I feel like they've got some pieces already like this, like his armored weapons. You just make a little hole in there so he can slide his fist in, and you've got his guns. We've got some tubing that's just long enough to reach from the forearms to his shoulder pads. We'll call it a day. Techno otherwise is a pretty simple looking character, a base body that they could use a pizza Spider-Man mold for, maybe one of those latest Daredevil figures. I think he would work just fine. He's not that overly complicated in terms of what he looks like and what they need to do. Here's another look from Jeff Johnson so you can see how simple this design can be to execute. Really, it's about this shoulder pad section here. They need to be bulky, a little bit oversized. Give him a backpack with some weight to it, some heft, maybe just designs. I'm not talking about making him so heavy he doesn't stand up. And the gauntlets. That's the important thing with Techno. But there's another way they could pull off this character because Techno doesn't really stay that way. This design too long in it. Midway through the original run, Techno gets killed and he gets his consciousness uploaded to a machine essentially, which allows him to create a mechanical body. And this one's not as tall as Atlas, but it's pretty tall, maybe like 9 inches, I think. He should still be able to fit in a box. And so we get him. I think they could do this version of him since he had this look longer than his original Techno look. And I think this one is really fun and really cool. There are so many different options for the Thunderbolts. And as I continue to reread them, I'm like, oh man, there's so many different designs, so many costumes, so many supporting characters that could work under the banner of the Thunderbolts. And I know we're not going to wait until 2027 before we get our anniversary of the Thunderbolts, but we need to get these figures. And I think there's lots of avenues to get them. Maybe you do a Techno versions 1 and 2 pack, or Techno through the ages. We get him as a fixer. We get him as his original Techno look, maybe with a swappable head with a bald head look, and then giant size or larger size Techno. And you can do the same thing with Moonstone, Meteorite, Atlas, Goliath. You got these characters, and then maybe just do a Screaming Mimi standalone figure since we've already got Beetle and we've already got a Mach 1 figure. So we just need one for her. But so those are the original Thunderbolts, and those are the ones that, bar none, anything, I need to get a figure for them. Those are the most important ones for me. But you can't do a Thunderbolts, you can't do them any justice without getting Jolt. Jolt is the character that kind of shifts the whole dynamic of the team. Jolt was captured as a kid by Arnim Zola early on in the book, got experimented on, got powers, which essentially made her an electrical speedball. So she's got a very basic, very simple design. Give her a new head sculpt, give her a young teen girl body, and add on elbow pads, knee pads. Call it a day. She's done. We don't need to go too crazy. She's not going to be too budget blowing with her, with her mold. There's nothing to this figure that should be like, oh man, I wish we could do this cool thing with her, but sorry. That's not the case with Jolt. She's really easy and she works really well. And she's an essential character because she starts to drive unintentionally a wedge between Baron Zemo and his control of the Thunderbolts and those who actually want to do the right thing. Here's another look at how she's going to pan out. I'm thinking smaller than Jubilee. You got to get those cool goggles. That setup is nice. Here's another way they could execute Meteorite's outfit. This is not Mark Bagley's design, but I think if they shortcut it and did this, I would be okay with it. Here's another look at Techno. Again, he's really simple. The work is done on the harness and then his gauntlets, but I think they could make him work. And, for sure, Jolt is easy and no problem design-wise for them. Now, if that's all we get from the Thunderbolts, I would be happy. I would be like, great, you've got the team. I'm all good. But as I'm still reading Thunderbolts beyond the original 21st 24 issues, beyond that first 12 issues, which would have been like an amazing maxi series, I'm getting more ideas for figures that would really work and would help flesh out the Thunderbolts side of your display. First up on that realm is Hawkeye. Hawkeye joins the team to essentially take Citizen B's Baron Zemo's spot as the leader of the team. He starts off with his normal attire, but then eventually he's committed to the team. It gets a little darker, which is ironic because most of them are going lighter with their colors. So he gets a darker color scheme, throws in the Thunderbolts logo because he is down with the team for good now. And I think this will be a fun variant. If we need to throw in Hawkeye with some pack to sell a character, maybe like Jolt, who a lot of collectors may not know and love, like Thunderbolts readers would. That's an easy way to do it. You can package him in Meteorite with Jolt. There you go. You're all covered. And none of them, I think they could balance off the cost of Meteorite's more complicated mold. So here's a really good option. There's a way to do that. In addition to Hawkeye, the Thunderbolts got another new member who unfortunately is never going to get done as a figure as much as I would love to, because I feel like we still need cooler black characters in this thing. And that's Charcoal, the Burning Man. Wizard, way back then, did a creative villain contest to take advantage or ride the wave of popularity of the Thunderbolts, which was one of Marvel's top selling books at that time. And this guy created Charcoal, gave him a design, and it's pretty generic when you look at it. I mean, it's not the most complicated. It's not the most, oh man, this is such a groundbreaking design. I mean, this is Charcoal, and it's pretty simple. There's some doomsday elements to it too, with these crystals on the forearms. Not much of a neck, a little glowing eyes deal, but that's Charcoal design. Charcoal being the Burning Man, he'll also light up like the Human Torch, do his thing on that end. The problem was Wizard neglected, and this is really ironic because Wizard is known as being super professional, pretty tight on top of things. They didn't really spell out the designs in the rules of this contest, which was, hey, if you design this character, you're essentially sending them off to Marvel, and you have no rights, no anything. But since they didn't do that, it opened up this whole can of worms for Marvel, for Kurt Busiek, and for every other writer, Fabi Nixia, who kept going with Thunderbolts and was using Charcoal, because the creator decided, I want some of this cash for this character that y'all are working into these books so much. It's not like a one-off appearance. It's not like the JLA villain Timeless or character Timeless that was actually Prometheus. That was a one-off. But in this case, for real, we got, well, what's going on here? This is a main character in the book. I want to wet my beak a little bit. And because of that, and because Kurt Busiek is such a great, awesome writer, he decided, let me flesh out this character more. Let me give him a backstory. So Charcoal started off as a villain working for this group of characters who weren't really important. But then he decided, hey, I was taken advantage of. I want to be a hero like the Thunderbolts. And so he's following the redemption arc of these characters and becomes a good guy. And not only that, but Busiek is like, you know what we need in Marvel, just in general? More diversity. So he gives him a whole alter ego that was not created by the original character or creator of Charcoal. And so we get this. This is Charlie's costume when he's not Charcoal. And Charlie was a really fun character. He was right alongside Jolt, which was nice because she had someone she could relate to, but he was also in the grand scheme of the Thunderbolts because he too started off as a villain. So really great and such a fun character. But unfortunately, we're never going to see him because Marvel was like, it is cheaper to kill him off than to try to negotiate with his creator and do all the things. So this is a character I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to customize, because I feel like maybe some of these Power Rangers characters will give me a bald black guy, and I just need to find a slender mold which I can do this great costume, put him in action. And customizers out there, let me know how in the world, what figure would make for a good buck for Charcoal. Is it one of those McFarlane Doomsday figures maybe? I don't know. I just need to get him in my Thunderbolts display because I'm like, dude, I need this guy. He's so much fun to read. And I think he was a really great addition to the team. But now, we're never going to get him in figure form. Now, Marvel has also the Hasbro team has shown we're getting a Crimson Cow, the female version, and that's actually exciting now after I've been reading Thunderbolts because Crimson Cow started off her own version of the Masters of Evil, and so they are ironically fighting the last version of the MOE. And she starts off with a smaller team, but this is her mass full version of that squad. And the whole selling point of issue 25 of Thunderbolts was Thunderbolts versus 25 villains. This is them. Excuse me. So we're seeing some of these characters, excuse me, have already been done in figure form. We know thanks to that render, we are going to be getting Crimson Cow. And then it's like, all right, who else will we already have? Well, we've got Boomerang, and he's a character not in this attire, but we've got him in figure form. And there's a little bit of fudging in terms of these looks, but I'll work around it because I got a team, and I can almost make a team of villains to fight him. So we've got Boomerang, we've got Eel. Tiger Shark also has a different look. Again, I'll work around that. We've got Constrictor, no changes needed, and we've got Claw. So that count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's enough to take on the Thunderbolts right away. But I figured, we could also flesh out this team a little bit more and focus on this version of the team because this is the ones that were going against the Thunderbolts originally. So there's Flying Tiger, and Flying Tiger just has a cool design. I mean, I can't imagine he'd be one that the Marvel heads be like, nah, we can't do him. I think his design, his look is so cool. He'd be really fun. And like I said, we've got Tiger Shark, essentially. We've got Claw already, but there's some others. We got Crimson Cow coming, but there are 2 more that I think would make for really good additions to this line as well. First up is Man Killer, and I think she's a character, a figure that if they were to use, they could make for the mold for an updated She-Hulk. And she's got design elements that I think would be pretty inexpensive for them to do, especially if they approach it from the mindset of, well, we could do a Titania, or we could do a She-Hulk using this mold, or just use the new She-Hulk mold for her. But I think she'd be an easy one for them to do, provided they were like, hey, we can make this happen. Next up is another really relatively inexpensive mold, and that's Cyclone. He is a blank body. Anything beyond the Bucky Cap mold is basically on the table for him. A new head sculpt, I think we're all covered. The Thunderbolts also battled some serious, true heavy hitters in the Marvel Universe. They took on Count Nefaria. They took on Graviton. So those are 2 villains that would also work. Nefaria has been rumored to get a Marvel Legends figure next year, so hopefully, fingers all crossed, that we can make that happen. And Graviton is probably overdue in terms of main big Avenger villains who need a figure in Marvel Legends. And we can go to his different versions along the way, but we need one of him, so let's make that happen. But the Thunderbolts, our team within range, they can get them completed within a box set. They could do 2 packs of them, their villainous alter egos, because I've already started a really cool team of Thunderbolts. I've got 3. There we go. Let's get everybody on the screen. I've got 3. Let's get more. Let's start off. Let's get Meteorite. Let's get Techno, Atlas, and Jolt. That would be my completed Thunderbolts. And then if you want to go, give us Hawkeye in his Thunderbolts attire. Give us some more of these villains. Give us Cyclone, Man Killer, Flying Tiger. That'd be awesome. If y'all can figure out some way to get us a charcoal, I would be so appreciative. But let's make that happen. It's not that many members of the team. It's not like, hey, let's get all the X-Men. Thunderbolts are a pretty small roster. I don't care about all these other iterations of the Thunderbolts. There are 4 members of this team that still really need to get done. So, Hasbro, putting this justice like lightning in your hands. Let's make it happen. Let me get a complete version of the Thunderbolts. What teams do you all still want to see completed in Marvel Legends, in DC Multiverse from Todd McFarlane, or any other lines that you're collecting? As always, drop a line in the comment. Thank you so much for watching. This episode of Louse Figure Files has been filed.